Alright, so, on this week's episode, other than phones going off,
my bad.
Man, no,
it's on silent.
No,
what's going on?
Silence in the theater, dude.
Oh shit.
Silence in the theater. Oh my god. Okay, so this week's episode, we are diving into the great role of Black Widow, directed by Kate Shortland. This movie actually hit a skyrocket budget of $200 million, with the box office selling at like $270 million. Actually, that's $70 million profit. That's weird. It's
and that's just from the box office. That's even including all the other sales they're going to have off of it once people buy it.
What you would think?
Some people these days don't buy their movies; they steal them.
Yeah, but you would think it'd be a lot higher. You really would think it'd be a lot higher.
I don't know. I don't know if it would be higher than that.
But for anyone who has not seen the movie or is interested in the actual synopsis, Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy ties her into her past. Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationships left wake that made her become an Avenger. So let's go ahead and start talking about, I guess, Natasha Romanoff's origin story per se compared to the comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, they have it pretty accurate, in all honesty. They didn't deviate too much.
Yeah, it didn't drift off too far off.
And as far as Scarlett Johansson's portrayal, she's actually done a very good job of portraying the character pretty much as she was written originally.
I think the only issue that most people have as an audience is, like, why now? You know, you have, everyone else has got the origin story, like Captain America, Iron Man got his, like everyone's got their piece of the pie. Black Widow being in several of the Marvel movies already, even as a cameo, she got like the last end of the stick, which is kind of messed up, right?
No, because actually she, as well as like Mark Ruffalo and Jeremy Renner, they were all pretty resistant to the idea of having their own solo films. Well, so they finally basically just either threw a number at her that she liked, or finally just were able to break her down and talk her into doing it. But they actually, like, Mark Ruffalo doesn't want to do a solo Hulk movie.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it was like over-sexualization of Black Widow in the past, and I do remember seeing something that she was clearly against, her being overly sexualized as Black Widow. So
it didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. We got to see the back end and the front end of all of Black Widow, aka ScarJo. And, you know, the audience was pleasantly pleased with the outcome of that. But of course it toned down as movies transpired. She started wearing a little bit more looser clothing, and it wasn't as sexualized.
Yeah, from her first appearance in Iron Man 2 to now, yeah. No, it's definitely, she's been more action-based than sexualized.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the enemy of Black Widow, Taskmaster. Man,
Let's start with Taskmaster.
Let's start. We're hitting. We're always gonna hit the enemies first.
In the comic books, Taskmaster was technically a mutant. He was born with disabilities. He wasn't made that way.
Yeah, very true, very true. Also, spoiler warning, in case you have not watched this, the part where you might want to fast forward at least a minute in. For those of you who have seen it, I mean, the twist of having Taskmaster be female, not just any female for that matter, but, you know, someone who was supposed to be, you know, assassinated. So,
and in a lot of ways, Black Widow's biggest red mark in her ledger.
So I think that was super interesting. All right, guys, spoilers now. But so I mean, the thing about Black Widow that, you know, kind of stirred off from the rest of the Marvel movies, and I think they did a really good job, but I think they failed in a lot of ways also. It kind of reminds me of Iron Man 3. The antagonist in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get a proper Mandarin.
Yeah, and I mean, they did the same thing in Black Widow. We had Taskmaster, but then you had enemies circled around her who were also a family, which is super interesting.
Yeah, like I said, they changed a lot as far as the comic books to cinematic world goes, for this film especially. But the changes they made, I think, tie into the cinematic world really well. And I think if you're a fan of them, start putting the comics to the side, you know?
The way I looked at it was, super interesting, but I got heavily distracted actually because her family is super fucking attractive, and I just cannot. Can we just take a moment of silence for Florence Pugh? Can we all agree on that? Florence Pugh was, that was the sister of, ScarJo, and she played a great Yelena, but she was a firecracker, and
I still think ScarJo's hot.
I can't see it. Her fighting capabilities in that movie were up to par. She has an amazing figure.
And yet Black Widow would still obliterate.
No!
Oh, yeah.
Did you even see the fight scene between those two? Those two were just going at it, and this was a softcore porn for me. This was fantasy. I was in the best moment of my life. I had my Jergens on the left. I had my Charmin on the right, and I was ready to go, dude. I was ready to have an episode. It was going to be my little short clip of something. I was going to turn that shit into a TikTok. That's how great it was.
I'm just going to brush over that one. Going back to the Taskmaster really quick, they changed pretty much everything about the Taskmaster for the film, but I did like Taskmaster in the movie. I thought it was a very good villain, and I thought it was done very well.
Now, do you think anybody would have wanted to see Iron Maiden take flight? Because, there's that one scene in the movie where it really seemed like it was going to go in that direction. Like maybe Taskmaster was like the minor antagonist, and then when you saw, Melina, played by Rachel Weisz, by the way, she does the whole turnaround where it seems like she is on their side. When they get taken captive right before they go to the big flying ship.
Yeah.
You really thought right there at that point, we're going to see Iron Maiden take flight, and here we are. Even though it was going to be like a mother-daughter thing, but it was going to be interesting until they switched it up completely.
Well, again, I mean, even Iron Maiden in the movie wasn't like they pretty much, outside of Black Widow herself, they had pretty much changed everything about every character in this film.
Yeah, especially Red Guardian. He fought Cat, back
one time.
Back in 89 or something like that. Is that what he said?
90.
Yeah, back in those days. Frozen as an ice cube. Interesting.
See, that was always the thing that bothered me as far as them. They thought out Cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did he fight Cap when he was frozen during the time?
I'm still trying to figure out that timeline gap.
There are some timeline errors in that.
You can multiverse it, but it just doesn't really still work.
In any case, for those who don't know, in the comic books, Captain America and Red Guardian did have one fight, and technically Red Guardian won, but he had outside interference.
Yeah. And Red Guardian played by David Harbour, really great guy. He did really good in Stranger Things. He will always be my author. Always.
And then I will say, outside of the backstory for Red Guardian, his portrayal of Red Guardian's personality is actually very, very well done.
Almost like fat drunk.
Is technically not a villain per se. He's a hero in his country. He's like the Soviet Captain America. So he's actually not a bad guy. He has a very strong moral code, just like Captain America does. He just believes in his country's doing.
He's maybe a villain in the U.S.
Yeah,
but not a villain.
Exactly. And Soviets, like how, in fact, I love in the Captain America movie, which we'll touch on eventually, where they were using Captain America to promote the war and bringing soldiers, and they were using him as like an icon and an image. That's how Red Guardian was in the Soviet Union. Yeah. He was a decorated soldier, and they used him in their program to coincide with the Captain America program. And so, he's actually not a bad dude. He's not that guy who's a villain and goes in and kills women and children and bombs places.
He does what he has to do for his country.
Yes. I could not find, I never once read any stories about Dreykov, and I could not find anything about him. I found zero publication history for him outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So maybe if somebody else out there knows anything about him in the comics, like maybe his, I couldn't find anything. So I have no idea about that. I thought he was a good villain. I thought the actor did a good job, and I thought he was a good addition to the story and everything.
So he could,
but he's, as far as I know, not an actual comic book character.
It could have been possibly made as a way to bring Taskmaster into a modern
I think he's an original character for the film.
But if you guys do know of him, go ahead, throw in the comment section. Give us some education, and we've been drinking, so we could be messing up in the process. Who knows?
The other thing is, I will say, the Red Room was pretty much how it was. That's they brought young kids in, brainwashed them, and turned them into the elite espionage and assassins that they want them to be. Spies and assassins, what they trained.
Oh, is that what that was?
Isn't that? Yeah.
Oh, dude, I thought you talked like whips, chains, 50 Shades.
No.
Or is that the black room?
I don't know what that one was. What are they?
Isn't that a red room?
I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but they call the room in Black Widow the Red Room, buddy.
Isn't that some stuff
where they
shit?
train all the kids?
That does not correlate well. What? Training kids?
Did you watch the movie?
Oh my god. It could be the alcohol.
It must be the other. Yeah, the Red Room is where they train. It's the Black Widow program. That's where they train them.
All right,
in the
got
Red
it.
Room.
Maybe I just didn't.
It's referenced a lot.
In
fact, she references
screwing up in colors
in other films before this one. She talks about the Red Room. She's mentioned it. Yeah. Not Red Room, Red Room.
Oh, okay. That might make some sense. Ooh, I can't wait to watch that movie again. That was
Now, since you love Yelena so much, her character is actually, personality-wise, very, very much the way it is in the movie. As far as the comic books go, they did a good job of translating the character itself.
Especially when she mimics ScarJo's fucking pose. Yes.
But I will say again, backstory completely altered. She wasn't the sister or anything like that in the comics. She was actually a rival in the Red Room that always came in like, second best compared to Black Widow. And so they were actually rivals, not friends or family, or didn't even get along. They actually tried to kill each other
super hot.
on multiple occasions.
Super hot.
This guy.
She was a great character, guys. She was a phenomenal person in every way. She had all the assets.
Yeah, she did an amazing job acting in this film.
Yes, definitely the
I think everybody in this film did a really, really good job of acting.
Oh yeah. That
I kind of wish they had stuck to, even if they wanted to continue with a female lead for Taskmaster, I really, really wish they had stuck to a more traditional Taskmaster, because Taskmaster has lines. He's got catch. I think there would have been dialogue would have added to the character.
I think they went the direction that they went, mainly because they didn't want this movie to have a continuation, because there's only so far you can go.
Yeah, but the way they left it leaves it open for a continuation.
Not really, not necessarily. Well,
yeah,
it leads it up to a continuation for the sister, not for ScarJo.
Debatable.
No, seriously. If you relook at the end of the movie, and you see that the end of Black Widow, she's back at the beginning of, I think, Avengers 2?
This would have This would have been this movie's between Civil War and
yeah, it's pretty much Avengers 2 in my opinion, because Civil War is but it shows her getting the ship, they're breaking the guys out of the jail cell, and that was it. That's it for Natasha right there. But the sister still lives on through her getting through the escape, the other women in the Red Room end up rescuing her, so she can lead a whole.
That's what I'm saying. It's leaving it open for them to go on like another film where they're trying to rescue some of their other sisters.
Yeah, but I don't think Black Widow's going to be involved.
Maybe.
I think Yelena's going to take the mantle, and there is a follow-up of Hawkeye. He's having his own thing coming out soon.
Yeah, Ronin, right?
Ronin.
Yeah. Which is funny because again, he was resistant to it. I mean, who knows? Maybe Mark Ruffalo will cave too. We'll get a whole film.
Maybe, but I mean, this is just a series, by my understanding. So Ronin's going to be a series, and I think Yelena's going to come back because she is now aware of Hawkeye. She now knows it due to Natasha's little mindless story of this is where they used to hang out sometimes. So I think it's a possibility that we will see Yelena again because she was phenomenal. They're not going to get rid of her this easy.
I'm actually excited to see the Hawkeye stuff.
Ronan's a phenomenal character. After losing everything, But storyline, amazing characters, dialogue was on point.
And for the most part, personality traits from comic to film were done very well. The only thing they didn't do was bring the proper backstories in, but considering the characters they were using and
modern day times,
it makes sense that they had to change the backstories to make them more of a unit.
They had to follow up at the ending. The ending was good. It made it to where ScarJo didn't have to come back at this point. If she didn't want to come back, she doesn't have to now. And then you have Florence Pugh.
But I definitely think it was overall, I'd say at least, 8.5?
I give it a hard 8.
Hard 8?
Hard 8. I'd definitely give it a hard 8. It did have some moments. It did change up a lot. But I think it was due to certain rights in Marvel, as well as just certain people's contracts ending. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that definitely has a lot to do with it. And like I said, with Scarlett Johansson, she really didn't originally want to do a solo film.
Yeah, so it has a lot to do with the contracts and whatnot. So they're gonna have to change some stuff. And you never want to have someone else reprise a role. Just like how Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther. No one's gonna do that. You know, he's Black Panther for the rest of his life.
Phrasing.
Well, the rest of his existence. He still exists. He still lives on. There's a Black Panther in all of us.
Fair enough. Still gotta say phrasing to that one too. Wakanda forever, man.
Well, I'm Shin.
I'm Jorman.
And this has been the Naked Truth Cinemas. That's what I'm talking about. Cheers to that one. By the way, Florence Pugh.
Scarjo. All day, baby.
Florence Pugh. Sky God. She did the hair flip thing.